On the international stage, China often presents itself as an economic giant and a military powerhouse, showing off its towering, modern cityscapes and the impressive sight of its aircraft carrier formations. However, this seemingly brilliant showroom display cannot hide the deep, underlying crisis within. The Chinese Communist Party's rule is facing a significant test of instability. Economic headwinds are rising everywhere, its military deployments are stretched thin, and internal policy mistakes are making these cracks worse. If the international community allows itself to be fooled by this thin veneer of prosperity and stability, it will miss the real China, a massive entity that is strong on the outside, but weak on the inside, and one that could collapse at any time under multiple pressures. Yardney Research, a market research firm, went straight to the heart of the matter in a recent report. China's economy is stuck in multiple swamps, and the growth outlook for 2026 is shrouded in heavy shadow. The report warns that the biggest threat is not external pressure, but rather internal policy mistakes. Specifically, decisions made by President Xi Jinping are magnifying these headwinds, pushing the Chinese economy toward an even more dangerous edge. Although China's economy is the world's second largest at $19 trillion, Yardeni stresses that what might further widen the economic gap between the US and China is not the policies of American President Trump, but Beijing's own choices. The data is startling. Chinese exports, factory orders, retail sales, and car purchases are all weakening, and fixed asset investment has fallen to its lowest point in over 5 years. The annual growth rate for real retail sales is only 3.1%, far below the average of 10% seen between 2002 and 2018. Manufacturing weakness has become routine, falling into deflation for the fourth year in a row. The Producer Price Index, PPI, plummeted 2.1% in October, while the Consumer Price Index, CPI, barely held the zero line. This deflationary trend not only eats into corporate profits, it is also making the real estate crisis worse, triggering collective worry about a Japanese-style lost decade. Beijing's unwillingness to actively loosen monetary policy has allowed capital chains to break, and market confidence has completely vanished. Even more unsettling is Xi Jinping's harsh technology crackdown. The regulatory storm targeting internet platforms, while high-profile, has ignored the core problem: the unfair subsidies given to inefficient state-owned enterprises. These policies have not only failed to fix structural problems, but have also hurt investor confidence. Even if Xi and Trump agree to pause tariffs for a year, whether Beijing will use this window to speed up reforms remains unknown. After 12 years of his leadership, the Chinese economy is unlikely to surpass the US in size anytime soon. This is not the result of external containment. It is a clear example of digging one's own grave internally. The superficially impressive GDP numbers are nothing more than a piled-up bubble that could burst at any moment. If the economy is the Achilles heel of the CCP's rule, then the military is its window dressing for external toughness. The South China Sea situation has heated up again recently. Manila, Hanoi, and Kuala Lumpur have all hosted international meetings, pushing this sea area to the center of global geopolitics. As the US, China, and ASEAN countries jostle for position, China's military deployment in the South China Sea should be a powerful deterrent, but the reality is far from it. Benjamin Blandin, a French associate researcher at the Korea Institute for Maritime Strategy, KIMS, based in Malaysia, makes a sharp point. The outside world generally overestimates the strength of the PLA, viewing it as an iron fist that can be fully deployed at any time and deal with multiple fronts simultaneously. This is simply not the case. The Chinese Navy claims to have 400 ships, but nearly half of those are limited to coastal operations. After accounting for maintenance and training, only about 120 ships are truly capable of distant water missions. Furthermore, these forces need to be spread out across the Bohai Sea, Yellow Sea, South China Sea, the Taiwan Strait, and overseas bases like Djibouti and Cambodia, making it difficult to concentrate firepower. Blandin emphasizes that the CCP is dedicated to building an image of overwhelming force, but its distant water deployment is restricted at every turn, making it impossible to handle multiple conflicts at once. The myth that China can fight 10 at a time is just propaganda fluff. The sharp contrast between the PLA's aggressive posture in the South China Sea and its actual inability to be everywhere at once is a classic example of being strong on the outside and weak on the inside. Take Vietnam's land reclamation as an example. Outsiders often group China and Vietnam together, but the motivations and scale are vastly different. Since 2013, China has actively reclaimed land in the Spratlys, controlling 7 large islands and reefs with a total reclaimed area of 3,200 hectares. These are equipped with long-range missiles, electronic warfare systems, satellite bases, and 3,000-meter runways, making their offensive and projection capabilities obvious. In contrast, while Vietnam controls more islands and reefs, the average size is small, the equipment is basic, and the total reclaimed area is far less than what China has built on just one base, Fiery Cross Reef. Vietnam's actions are essentially a defensive response, stemming from incidents like the Chinese drilling platform entering its exclusive economic zone in 2014 and the ramming of its fishing boats in 2019. China's reaction has been quiet in recent years, perhaps tacitly agreeing to Vietnam's expansion while shifting the pressure onto the weaker Philippines. When Vietnam simultaneously pushed forward with multiple island and reef projects. During the pandemic, Beijing found it difficult to stop them and could only pretend it didn't happen to avoid the high cost of trying to reverse a done deal. Vietnam is closely linked with China economically, but maintains distance in security and defense. U.S.-Vietnam relations have warmed recently, with U.S. aircraft carriers allowed to stop for resupply. Vietnam has also signed strategic agreements with multiple countries and restarted military cooperation with the Philippines. For Vietnam, China is the elephant in the room, impossible to ignore, but Vietnam will not become dependent on any major power. Its multilateral balancing strategy highlights the regional wisdom of seeking autonomy rather than relying on the illusion of Beijing's protection. The CCP's external aggressiveness, from building islands in the South China Sea to blocking technology, is nothing more than a smokescreen to hide the instability within. Economic deflation, the real estate collapse, and military bloating are headwinds that are collectively eroding the foundation of its rule. If the international community continues to be blinded by the appearance of prosperity and stability, it will miss the chance to see the real China, a giant plagued by frequent policy mistakes, slowly stumbling toward a deep abyss of instability. Only by peeling back this showroom curtain can we see the hidden fragility and understand the future of the global order. Thanks for watching and joining us on this journey to unveil China's many layers. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and hit that subscribe button to stay updated. See you in the next video.